Kennen Haas versus Donegan. Mentioned with Donegan, former Invitational winner. He is the young Pyromancer token.
An Open champion this year. Kennen Haas also an Open champion, though in the Legacy format. Dylan's trophy this year was from Standard. He was playing Jeskai at that point in time. Felidar Guardian no longer legal, though, so you got to jump ship on that plan.
Looks like a mulligan to start off here for Donegan. Now, looking at blue-red control, I mentioned that you mentioned the 2 cards from the new set, from Hour of Devastation, that we're looking at. 2 copies of Abrade and 3 copies of Hour of Devastation. And the big gain here, I mentioned Abrade is such a versatile card. It gives them an onboard, an answer really in their deck to artifacts, which the deck didn't have. I remember seeing something like a resolved Dynavolt Tower was very good against the control deck.
Well, I remember when Dissenter's Deliverance came out in Amonkhet, my only thought was, why is this card not red? You know, these blue-red control decks would have really loved that. But Abrade is just such a good card.
So they gained Abrade. They also gained Hour of Devastation, which before the best sweeper they'd had was the Sweltering Suns.
Yep, Sweltering Suns. Other than that, you're really just playing a lot of 1-for-1s. Really relying on Glimmer of Genius to get card advantage to be able to cast multiple spells in one turn.
So both players are going to trade some creature lands here to start out. Dylan has kept on 6.
And being on the play is certainly where Kennen wants to be. It's going to be difficult to leverage Hour of Devastation when you don't have that kind of tempo advantage. 5-mana sweeper can be a little bit slow in this matchup.
Heart of Kiran, the turn 2 play from Donegan. Kennen will cycle a land.
Yeah, Fetid Pools, 2 copies in the deck, just as some cycling lands there. No use for the black mana. Unfortunately, you won't see any Nicol Bolas here.
And it's going to be Veteran Motorist from Donegan. Kennen will Essence Scatter. That means as the creature never gets on the board, there's no chance to crew Heart of Kiran yet.
Stops that scry, too. You know, that very popular Boros mechanic of scrying.
Yeah, scry now, I think a mechanic that's fully in every color.
Right.
Originally was blue.
Looks particularly pushed on that 3-1 for 2 in Boros.
And Dylan going to pass back. He misses the 4th land drop here, and Kennen will seize the moment. It's going to be Glimmer of Genius on Dylan's end step.
And having an unchecked Glimmer on turn 4, your opponent with no real board presence, still at 20 life, Kennen is firmly in the driver's seat of this game. This is exactly where you want to be. You frequently, in this spot, you're casting Glimmer because you need to find something because you're very far behind at this point in the game.
You don't always have time just to spend your 4 mana on turn 4 this way.
Right. If you can find a Braid or you can find, well, now he just has energy because of the Glimmer, so Harness Lightning will be able to kill the heart at this point in the game.
Yeah, it looks like he has picked up a couple more lands. Here's Aether Hub. 6 cards in hand, among them another Glimmer.
And Kennen is playing a 4 Torrential Gear Hulk build of the deck. If he's able to get to turn 6, cast that Flashback Glimmer without taking too much damage, he'll be in a really good spot.
That Toolcraft Exemplar. Now, Kennen has picked up on a Braid. You see that moved over to the front of his hand. He'll let the 1-drop resolve. Dylan says, go to combat. Make the creature a 3/2. Crew Heart of Kiran, have it attack, and here is a Braid to take down the legendary vehicle. And no more plays by Dylan, he just passes. We look over at Dylan's hand. He's got his own copy of a Braid, 2 Fatal Pushes, a Gideon, and a Glorybringer.
Gideon and Glorybringer are pretty strong. No mana to cast those, and then a couple pretty blank spells. That spot removal is really not going to do him any good there.
Actually, just anticipate here on end step by Kennen Haas. We looked at Supreme Will, a card that a lot of blue-red players are certainly interested in. Kennen has just gone for Anticipate instead, not taking the flexibility.
Maintain 3 Disallow. That's kind of been the card that a lot of people have been shaving if they want Supreme Will.
Right.
Kennen biased towards a little mana efficiency that helps him facilitate playing 3 Hour of Devastation and 4 Torrential Gearhulk. It's a little tough to start on 3 when you got a bunch of 5s and 6s.
Kennen's going to get to cast another Glimmer of Genius here. Picks up a Disallow in his hand and draws another. This is all on end step.
Just so you know, our final player count was 248 players. Because you guys
And 7th land here. You see Disallow, Harnessed Lightning, Hour of Devastation, Censor, Land, and 2nd Hour of Devastation for Kennen.
And that Censor, he might even be able to convert that yet this game. You know, again, Dylan hanging on with Gideon and Glorybringer in hand.
Yeah, here's a chance. Here's Gideon. Now, with Kennen having 2 hours of Devastation, first of all, I could watch a whole movie in that time, but second of all, it would cleanly answer this board.
Yep, that's absolutely true. If you can get to a point where you can cast Hour of Devastation, leave up Disallow, you know, 1 more land will get him there, that'll be a really nice spot.
And here's a copy of Hour of Devastation. And one of the nice parts of this card is how cleanly it answers a board of Gideon plus creatures, dealing 5 damage to each creature and each non-bolus planeswalker.
And Kennen did find that land, so he has Disallow for this turn here, and he didn't cycle the Censor either. So he'll be able to censor something that costs 4, potentially 5 mana on this turn as well.
Yeah, I bet the hope here for Donegan seems to be that the Kennen hasn't found a blue Gearhulk yet. So despite the fact that Kennen is up so many cards, he doesn't really have a win condition yet.
Well, he just hasn't had a great window to cast Gearhulk.
Oh,
It does
he
look like
has
there is
one.
one in his hand. He's just managing what Dylan's up to. When you have just a level board or nothing's really going on, you cast the Gearhulk for the Glimmer, the game's just over.
Right.
So he's not getting needlessly aggressive.
You see Kennen's going to disallow a Thraben Inspector, then Scrap Heap Scrounger resolves.
And this is a lot of what you'll
Yeah.
see the stronger blue-red control decks, control players. There's a heavy bias towards doing as little as possible in a proactive sense.
Magma Spray for the Scrounger. And Dylan, in response, going to Fatal Push his own creature. He would like Scrounger to not be exiled. Also, not really any other use for the Fatal Push
Right.
in the matchup.
Yeah, you got to get some mileage out of that one. It isn't pretty, anyway, but Kennen's not going to just be activating his Wandering Fumaroles willy-nilly. Not in a position where he'll have to block with them anytime soon either. So that Fatal Push was not really doing anything for Donegan.
Dylan just passes, and maybe there's going to be that empty board Gearhulk you were talking about.
Yeah, with 4 cards in hand, it's pretty tempting.
Yeah. Dylan has an Abrade. He'll get to kill it, I suppose. And here's Torrential Gearhulk.
That is the nice thing about being the 4 Gearhulk build. You get the first Gearhulk abraded, you got a bunch more in your deck waiting for you.
Yeah, we saw that yesterday in the 8-0 rounds, a 4-color control deck. Some really nice cards like Nicol Bolas Godpharaoh. One of the downsides of those that he had to cut Torrential Gearhulks for it, and that felt like it may have cost him.
Yeah.
Before Kennen untaps, Dylan will abrade away the Gearhulk, though not before Kennen got to convert a Glimmer of Genius.
You'd have a hard time selling me on fewer than 3 Torrential Gearhulk.
Ooh, I'm surprised you even was willing to go to 3.
It can be cumbersome in the blue-red mirror match. Costing 6 in a counter war is pretty unfortunate.
You see, Kennen, this is really pushing an advantage. Is going to swing with Wandering Fumarole.
Yeah, he's able to leave up 3 mana still. Still has that Disallow in hand.
Dylan will bring back Scrap Heap Scrounger.
4 is a higher number than 3. Kennen's winning this race as of now.
Thraben Inspector, the draw for Dylan. So it looks like he has 2 Glorybringers, a Thraben Inspector. May have had a Fatal Push. Could have tried to go for Wandering Fumarole. Again, another Magma Spray for Scrounger. Dylan will Fatal Push it again.
Not a very satisfying way to interact here. Again, it's all that Dylan can do in game one. He'll be looking to get a lot better post sideboard.
Clue token here for Donegan. Kennen will anticipate.
That's really one of the strengths of blue-red control in Standard right now. A lot of the other decks are just creature-heavy decks.
Yeah, this idea that your deck is mostly removal spells, draw spells, and blue Gear Hulks matches up really nicely with where Standard is.
Against most opponents, Fatal Push is pretty good. In this matchup, it's the worst card in your deck by a lot.
See that Anticipate found the second blue Gear Hulk for Kennen Haas. Sensor, Essence Scatter, Gear Hulk, Harnessed Lightning. These are all in Kennen's hand. Dylan will cast Glorybringer. This is a tap for 5. Kennen just says it resolves. Oh my.
Quite the sign of strength.
This he's just never going to cast the Sensor.
Never going to cycle it either, apparently.
Not until he has to.
Well, looks like we're still thinking on this one.
Okay.
I am so eager to snap off a sensor every time it plays. Just feels good to force spike people.
All right, there we go. He is going to censor away the Glorybringer.
And what do you think's going through Dylan Donegan's head right now?
Yeah, he's playing this out, you know, because.
Okay, there you
Yeah,
go. Now you know exactly.
The second blue Gear Hulk. That's what he says. I'm done.
Yeah, my opponent could counter my 5 mana spell with Censor.
And he thought about
think
not
about
doing
it.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm off it.
It's one of those things. If he's not thinking about it, it's probably because he has a sweeper and he's thinking, yeah, maybe I'll let it resolve, take damage, cast my sweeper. You're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. Look, you got it. Okay.
I've already fatal pushed my own creature twice. I'm so done with this game.
All right, so let's look over at the sideboard. You mentioned some dead cards in Dylan's deck. I mean, those fatal pushes certainly didn't look great. His sideboard, and this is something we've actually seen a lot of out of Mardu now that after Marvel left the format, has that kind of control transformational package in it. So he's got Fumigate, Oath of Liliana, Cut to Ribbons, Removal Spells, and then Planeswalkers. Chandra, Nahiri, Sorin. On top of that, Doomfall, Magma Spray, Painful Truths, and a Braid. There's actually a lot to like in his sideboard for this matchup.
And I'd say the biggest upgrade is that copy of Painful Truths. Having that draw 3 to keep up on cards is going to be important. You can't really be certain that any of your big spells are going to resolve, especially against a deck that's heavy on sensors. You do bring in the Planeswalkers, though. You know, Chandra, Nahiri, Soren, these all seem to play here. If they resolve, we can generate advantage that way. And the Doomfalls are pretty nice.
Yeah, I was going to say we have 5 Planeswalkers. We get 2 Doomfall, maybe even a Painful Truths as well.
Definitely Painful Truths.
Certainly a more controlled link. That's already 8 cards that there are 5 must counter spells, and then 3 very good sorceries.
And while a Braid does kill Torrential Gear Hulk, you don't necessarily want to go too heavy on that, especially with Doomfall as a potential answer as well. You can bring it in. 3 copies, you're getting to a point where you can end up with dead cards too often. Yeah,
a Braid can only deal 3 damage to a creature, not to a player, so the odds, it might be dead in this matchup. I guess if he's worried about a card like Dynavolt Tower out of Kennen Haas, he might keep some number in.
When you see those, then it's a different equation.
All right, so looking at Kennen's sideboard, though, he does not have the tower. His sideboard is 4 copies of Glorybringer, 3 copies of Thing in the Ice, 2 copies of Release the Gremlins, Summary Dismissal, and Magma Spray, and then an extra Essence Scatter and Negate.
So Magma Spray makes the most sense. You know, Dylan can't take all of his little creatures out of his deck. If you spend a lot of Planeswalkers, then Negate starts to look relatively nice. Essence Scatter not particularly impactful against the Mardu deck.
Yeah.
Frequently, when they have these creature package, they're sideboarding it in more often than they're not. If you expect all the fatal pushes out of the deck, then the Thing in the Ice can be a really powerful proposition there. And Glorybringer just has a Flametongue Kavu kind of effect is pretty nice as well.
So you actually like the creature sideboard plan of Glorybringers and Thing in the Ices from Kennen?
I like Thing in the Ice a lot more than I like Glorybringer, particularly on the draw.
Okay.
But when I see players with this plan, they're usually executing it very frequently.
Yeah, now Release the Gremlins, I assume, is for this matchup.
Yeah, being able to kill the Heart, Scrap Heap, Scrounger, that's going to be a really big payoff in a lot of spots.
All right, so those of you joining us here over on Twitch TV or on the Star City Games main page, we are going to be broadcasting all day. We have 6 rounds of Swiss and then 3 rounds of top 8 today. We also have our Twitch subscription program. This is, if you join us over in the feature match area, for all subscribers, you get to help us decide what matches we watch during the elimination. So you get to vote on that. You also get custom emoticons and badge. It's only $4.99 a month.
And looking like we're probably going to have a pretty diverse top 8 this weekend as well.
Yeah, we've had a lot of different decks from the top players, and our top players are also doing very well in the tournament. For Dylan Donegan from Cary, North Carolina, now at only age 20, he has 8 open top 8s, including an open win this year. He also, back in 2014, had an invitational top 8 and converted, was a winner there. So already an impressive set of results for someone who just turned 20.
Yeah, 100% conversion on invitational top 8s. Exactly average on open top 8 conversion. But hey, an open champion, 8 top 8s, nothing to scoff at either.
Yeah, won the invitational when he was in high school, now currently a student at East Carolina University.
Music producer.
I like it, all right. Dylan starting off with Thraben Inspector in the second game here, but this time he's kept 7. And it'll be Thraben Inspector into Veteran Motorist for Donegan. Scry top and bottom. He'll pass. Looking at some of the removal in Kennen's hand, got Negate, Harnessed Lightning.
It's often true that the blue-red control deck really doesn't start until at least turn 2.
Yeah.
And these kind of draws where your opponents just curve out. If Dylan can keep up on this, have some action on turn 3 and 4, this is a really scary start.
Right, because most of Kennen's removal is 1-for-1. So even if Kennen starts, every turn Dylan plays a card, Kennen answers it, he's still taking this tax of damage every turn.
And while Kennen does have the 3-hour of devastation, he doesn't have any Sweltering Suns, anything like that. Yeah, so until he gets to a lot of mana, he's not generating any card advantage.
Just going to cycle a land for Donegan and says go. That's a win here for Kennen. The board now nicely cleaned up. Means when he trades these removal, instead of taking 4 damage a turn, it's going to be 1. That seems much more manageable.
Right, and it looks like Dylan is going to be starting to cast Planeswalkers here, but Kennen's hand is pretty flush with counterspells at this point.
Yes, they disallow and negate, but he will send 1 more damage across with Thraben Inspector. See if we have maybe a 4th land for Donegan. He missed land 4 last game. Can he hit this time? He cycled away an extra Canyon Slough, so it seems likely. That said, I guess if he was looking for second white mana, if he has Gideon's, he would have cycled away land 4 no matter what. He doesn't only have single white right now.
Right. The first Canyon Slough got him to double red. Doesn't really need 2 black sources.
Looks like Spire of Industry in hand for Donegan. So you had to think here, he's going to crack a clue. This means Spire does not make white mana anymore.
And it looks like Dylan largely just respecting a potential counterspell here.
Yeah, if he's really thinking there's a counterspell. It's why he cracks a clue and makes Scrap Heap Scrounger. That, of all his lines, is the one that's best against counter magic.
Right. He's already got a Motorist in his graveyard, so he can bring the Scrounger back if needed.
Anticipate from Haas. Now, here'd be the big punishment, and Dylan dodged it. If Kennen's play was Anticipate, Magma Spray away the Scrounger, Dylan would not have the second white mana source. That's dodged, though. Now we go back to Ken and see what Kennen's answer is going to be. Thing in the Ice, mention him out of the sideboard, 4 counters.
Very unlikely that Dylan's packing much in the way of Fatal Push post sideboard.
Yeah. Negate and Harnessed Lightning in Kennen's hand, along with a Disallow and a blue Gear Hulk. But those first 2, those are the ones he'll have access to this turn.
Just Negate left up currently, but that'll cover any Planeswalker.
Yeah, I believe he also has a Harnessed Lightning. And Negate should be fine, though. Yeah, look at Dylan's hand, right?
Pretty unlikely spot for Harness Lightning on this turn here. You don't really want to
There's
throw
nothing
that
good,
at
yeah.
Thraben Inspector or Scrap Heap Scrounger, which just gets blocked by the
Yeah,
thing.
I guess it'd be if he was worried about something like untapped land Glorybringer.
Right.
With the hand Dylan has of 2 Gideons, this seems great. And a Chandra. I guess Dylan can decide which Planeswalker to have get countered. An attack by Dylan. That'll send 1 damage across.
And you lead by attacking there. Dylan would love it if Kennen casts a removal spell this turn.
Here's Gideon. Cannon will negate, removing a counter from that thing in the ice. And we see a Fumarole and a pass from Kennen.
Pretty content to just sit on Disallow for now. Still at a very healthy 16.
Yeah, Dylan's only been able to do 1 damage per turn with that Thraben Inspector. He'll try for Chandra Torch of Defiance. At this point, he's just putting Kennen to the test on counter spells each turn. Kennen will pass a 2nd time here with Disallow. But as it stands, if we look at Kennen's hand, he does not have any more counter magic for that last Gideon. He has a Torrential Gearhulk if he can find that 6th untapped land. But he'll need it. It's Toolcraft Exemplar added for Donegan. And there's the basic island. It's the draw from Kennen Haas, a huge draw.
Yeah, if you can get that Gearhulk down before the thing in the ice flips and pick it up to cast
That'll
again.
be the best. Yeah, if he's going to make it... The issue here is if he needs a counter spell for Dylan's next play, he'll have to play the Gearhulk this turn so he won't get what you're talking about.
No, he plays Gearhulk this turn, he will get it.
Oh, he will get it. Right. Yeah, there'll be like a 1 spell delay between them. A lot of times, like if the thing in the ice is on 1, you just immediately buy it back.
He won't pick it up immediately, but he'll be able to attack for 12 in the interim, which is not a bad spot to be in.
Yeah, that'll do. So there's land 6. And go from Kennen. Dylan knows exactly what that means.
Yeah. Kennen spent some time deliberating there. He didn't have an option to play a land that enters the battlefield tapped, leave up blocking with Wandering Fumarole this turn, in case he wanted, 7 mana on the following turn. Leaving up Gearhulk seems a lot more powerful, though.
Thraben Inspector from Donegan. That'll make a clue if it resolves here. I do like that play. This is actually playing more cards into the possible thing in the ice, like Thraben Inspector.
Yeah.
Seems what Dylan wants. I like that from Dylan.
Recasting those is pretty good.
You see Torrential Gearhulk into Disallow. Actually, the Inspector's enough to get that from Kennen's hand. So a big win here from Dylan is now he'll resolve a Gideon.
That Gideon is not long for this world, however.
Yeah, as any spell from Thing in the Ice.
Dylan's just gambling here. He can't really win the game if Kennen has spell anyway.
Yeah.
Gideon helps him push an advantage if he does have that spell.
You know, and I don't want to go back. The way this game seems to turn for me on turn 3 from Dylan, when instead of making a threat, his play was just to cycle a Canyon Slough. And Dylan actually is going to make an emblem because of what you mentioned here. It was just as good as dead.
Yep.
Yeah, Kennen's done a great job to have answers up and down the curve. Glorybringer from Kennen, though. How about this? If Dylan's going to just put his own Gideon in the graveyard, then Kennen won't play another spell. He'll just play Glorybringer. Here's a swing with both. An Exert, killing the Thraben Inspector. Kennen doesn't need to flip this thing in the ice. He'll just win the regular way.
And killing the Inspector is nice because that was the one creature that generated some value on the way back down. Though at this point, Kennen's dealing so much damage, that's really not a concern.
Yeah, the thing in the ice, which doesn't matter at this point. We see Dylan at 9. He's just losing the race.
If he has a cheap spell, he can pick up his Exerted Glorybringer with the Awoken Horror, cast that again, and crash in with that haste plus the thing in the ice to make a lethal attack on the following turn. Could also just cast or activate Wandering Fumarole in that situation as well.
And Kennen, this game, just did a great job of having answers up and down the curve.
Mm-hmm.
Donegan going to swing here.
And this is 2 4-power creatures. You don't really want to throw the thing in the ice in the way of this.
Right, because that emblem, they're both 4s. This will put Haas down to 7.
7's fine, though. Not going to be any...
Absolutely.
No searing flesh out of Dylan Donegan.
He needs 7 mana for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He also needs to be playing Legacy, because that's not even modern legal.
Nicol Bolas. There you go. You're
Yeah.
doing that, the God Pharaoh.
Well, you know, Mardu frequently boards in the Planeswalkers.
Yeah, part of his Planeswalker build is to board in a couple more colors, too.
Yeah. I mean, he's
Oh,
got
just one more
Spire.
color. Just one more
He's
color.
got Spire of Industry.
That'd be nice. We'd land Bolas 7 you. Game
Easy.
3.
Easy.
Kennen just checks the life total here. Swings for 5. Donegan down to 4.
And Kennen not doing more than he has to. He could fire up the Fumarole and go for that attack here.
Yeah, that's...
Playing around potential unlicensed disintegration.
Well, I think he'd like to have... The way to play around this, if he has 2 instants in hand, then he can guarantee that thing in the ice flip. Through a kill spell. And there's not even... There's a land and a Chandra on Dylan's side. Glorybringer is going to untap next turn. Dylan is at 4. He has to make a play.
And Dylan really, again, just has to play this as if Kennen's hand is totally blank. He has to come in for lethal this turn. And it really doesn't look like he has an avenue for that.
Yeah, with that Fumarole and the Glorybringer, there's just so many lethal attackers next turn.
And there's the right number of blockers as well. Activating Wandering Fumarole plus Thing in the Ice will get in front of any ground creatures. The Heart of Kieran only comes in for 5 on its own.
Yeah, what Kennen probably would be worried about is the 4 from Heart of Kieran plus an unlicensed Disintegration is the scariest thing that could happen.
Right.
Chandra, Torch of Defiance from Dylan. I guess that Heart of Kieran technically is a 5/5. It blocks Glorybringer.
4+3 and 5+3 both equal lethal.
5+2 here. Chandra, if the Heart of Kieran connects, a Chandra plus would kill Kennen.
Yeah. So,
That's actually relevant.
right. Kennen, again, Donegan has to play as if Kennen doesn't have an instant. If Kennen does have an instant, he should win this game pretty easily.
It's unlikely he'll take damage off Heart of Kieran if there's no instant. Dylan's going to -3 the Chandra to kill Thing in the Ice. I like this. It forces Kennen to flip into Awoken Horror. And Chandra can crew Heart of Kieran next turn. Still looks like Dylan would be dead, though.
Yeah, there's no next turn for Dylan Donegan. This is a do or die situation.
Glimmer of Genius from Haas. And yeah, he shows the instant. Dylan will extend the hand. Yeah, Kennen, not only a glimmer plus to harness lightning. His deck worked that game, and Kennen played it very well.
Right. And playing land plus Chandra, there's no way for the Chandra to -3 and then +1 that turn. You know, Dylan couldn't have assembled lethal there.